Hi everyone. For my part in what's new in minerals, I'm going to speak mostly about new minerals from Canada. Uh, Most years I spend time talking as well about international finds, but I'm only going to speak to a couple of those this year. Now at Rochester in what's new, we do not normally review all of the newly described minerals from one year to the next. That'd be quite an undertaking. But I'd like to make an exception for two minerals. There are two newly described minerals from Canada, from Mont Saint-Hilaire, named after members of our Rochester family. First of these is Melansonite, named after Frank and Wendy Melanson, the longtime Canadian mineral dealers now retired. Frank and Wendy have been coming to Rochester since the early days and are friends to many of us gathered here today. Frank is the modern era discoverer of Mont Saint-Hilaire, one of the world's great mineral localities. So it's only fitting that this mineral should be named after them. Chemically, it's similar to George Chowite and not that dissimilar from Monterregonite. And the second of these is Bainbridgeite, YCE, named after Michael Bainbridge. Michael is a well-known Canadian mineral photographer. He's been a part of Rochester for years and is again a friend of many of us at the symposium. It's nice to see a mineral named after him. Bainbridgeite is a carbonate mineral in the McKelveyite group. This was the result of work done by Ina Lakova and others at the Canadian Museum of Nature on the Donneite group and McKelveyite group, and named after Michael, who had given a lot of assistance with documenting rare species at the Canadian Museum of Nature from Mont Saint-Hilaire. Okay, on to the first of the new mineral finds from Canada from the last year. This is probably the most significant or the largest project for new minerals. This was Tyson's Fine Minerals project at Glenmont, Nova Scotia. This is it's along the Bay of Fundy, just inland a little bit from the shoreline, a few kilometers from Halls Harbor. And Rod Tyson worked this with the help of Doug Wilson and Martin Corbett, and they uncovered very nice zeolite specimens, including specimens of Heulandite, Thomsonite, Chabazite, and analcime. And this is a project that they will go back to and do further work at. But for now, I'll share some of the specimens from this past year. So far at Glenmont, the star mineral of the show has been Heulandite. There are beautiful, sharp, pearly, lustrous crystals of Heulandite that are very, very fine for really not only the Bay of Fundy, but for anywhere. And this is a beautiful specimen with a 5 centimeter crystal from Ronnie Van Dommelen's collection. And this is one of the nice Thomsonites from Rod and Helen Tyson's collection. A nice ball of bladed crystals. Thomsonite's not as common a zeolite mineral as some others, and very fine specimens. This is one of the Chabazites. The Chabazites get to a decent size for sure, a nice size. They're very sharp and lustrous, twinned crystals of Chabazite from Glenmont. And this specimen is obviously a combination of the minerals with a nice Chabazite twin on top of Thomsonite with a bit of Heulandite. Another nice specimen. And I don't have any photographs of analcimes because so far the analcimes that have been found have not been very attractive, but they have been of substantial size and they show real potential. So we'll watch out and see if we don't see some pretty neat analcimes coming from there in the future. Now this is from a development project. They're developing property at the outskirts of Halifax, Bayers Lake. It's a very nice smoky quartz crystal. It's remarkably sharp and nice for that locality, and Ronnie Van Dommelen specimen. So this one's a little bit different and so cool. When we think of the Bay of Fundy, we think of zeolites or amethyst or agate. We don't typically think of well crystallized magnetite specimens. But there was a small isolated seam along the Blomidon Peninsula by Amethyst Cove, and Terry Collett managed to. There were hardly any gaps where there were crystals. Most of it was just there wasn't enough space for any crystals to form. But Terry Collett managed to tease out a couple of very fine specimens of sharp dodecahedral magnetite crystals, and this specimen here you can see is 6 centimeters. This is just one more specimen, a close-up view of another specimen, just to give you a sense of just how finely crystallized these magnetites are. They're really sharp with beautiful striations and little triangular truncations. Very sweet. This was an unusual find. Terry found a series of pockets, interconnected pockets along the shore cliffs at the Bay of Fundy with these Laumontites. Now, we've seen Laumontites from there before. I've presented them at Rochester a few years ago, but these are brown. They're really a very pleasant brown. Terry calls them chocolate Laumontites. And they are very sharp. They've been stabilized. You can't tell to look at them, but they've been stabilized, and they're quite sharp, and the clusters are complete. This is a floater. A very, very cool thing. And here's just a close-up of that same specimen, just to show you the classic form Laumontite crystals. So this is a really great find this year. This is a classic locality for green fluorite, the Rogers mine. Of course, it's a long closed mine. It's a historic locality, and some work has been done at surface over the years. But this is a spectacular find for Rogers fluorite. This is a 16 centimeter specimen collected by John Montgomery and Dave McLean. Really super. And here's just one more specimen from that find, 5.4 centimeters on barite crystals. Really sweet. Dave Joyce and his son Daniel were up at the Beryl pit at Quadeville, a classic Ontario locality, and they had quite a find of Euxenite crystals, Euxenite Y. They've been found from time to time, but this was a substantial find, and some of the crystals are particularly well formed and sharp. So you can see the sizes there. The upper one is 2.4 centimeters. The lower one is 5.8 centimeters for Euxenite. It's pretty great. And just one final Canadian note. There has been an initial find of some Beryl, Aquamarine. Now, they're not large, and it is largely undeveloped. It's just been discovered, so it remains to be seen what kind of quality comes out. But this is from Chris Roback, and interesting to look forward to from British Columbia. And that's the last of the Canadian entries. Okay, I'd just like to speak about the Palabanda find. One of the big finds of the year by Tomac and the folks at Spur for Minerals. This specimen is a beautiful one of the finest thumbnails to come out. So I thought that should really be shared. It's a really nice piece in John Rackavan's collection. I also wanted to share one of the other minerals found because these are impressive for the species. These are zincolibethonite and beautiful balls of crystals. This is Chris and Prado's specimen. He did the analytical work on this material. So neat to see a zincolibethonite like that. And just one other zincolibethonite, but if you look closely under that ball of zincolibethonite crystals, you can see little blue blebs, and they are the rare mineral capuchite. So a couple of other minerals from the Veszelyite find at Palabanda in the Congo. And one last find to wrap things up. Veszelyite's a very uncommon mineral. It's strange to be talking about two significant Veszelyite finds in a single year. But there has been another one, this time in the Dongchuan district in China. This material is coming out of, I understand from Mike Kime, it's been coming out of an older mine. Someone's been going back in. So I don't think it's clear as to whether that's going to happen again or whether there was any more, but that's how this came out. So this is from Mike Kime. He had these really nice sharp crystals. And one final piece, this was a Mike Kime piece, and it was one of his favorites, but it turns out that it ended up in the collection of Chris Stefano, and Chris had taken a very nice photograph of it, so I wanted to include that one too. And that's a wrap for What's New for Me.